There are two questions that we get asked on a regular basis. Can self-published, can independent authors be successful with their book, achieve sales, and really reach their goal? The answer is yes, because we have a huge number of success stories. So what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to run through the authors we have worked with. This is just a small selection of the authors we've worked with, show you the success they have achieved and why they have achieved that success. What did they do differently that other authors couldn't do or didn't do or were unable to achieve? Why have their books become successful and others haven't? I believe this will be an incredibly useful video for any authors out there, whether you are an independent author or a traditionally published author. I will break down exactly why these books have been successful. And there will be some surprises along the way. One of the authors in particular has an incredibly small social media following. In fact, a couple of them do. And it shows this misconception that you need a big audience to achieve great results. You can actually do it with a very small audience, and in some cases, that's better. We have many success stories. I want to start with Rebecca House. Rebecca wrote a book called Police to Paranoia that has been incredibly successful. Out of all of the authors that have had massive success with us, Rebecca, Laura, and Chris are probably the most successful. And Rebecca, there is something coming in the future which we can't talk about just yet, which will probably make the most successful that we have ever worked with. Of course, this is just a small selection. We've been publishing books for over 10 years, 11 years at this point. So we have a huge amount to get through in this video. What I really want you to get from this is, of course, why these authors became successful. They all did it in a very different way. So with Rebecca, of course, her book naturally was newsworthy. People were interested in the fact that she had been sectioned under the Mental Health Act. She had been a police officer. So it was very newsworthy. It was very current. But it wasn't just that made Rebecca successful. Of course, she invested very heavily in building out an amazing product. And I think this is often overlooked by authors, is that your book is a product and it has to be amazing. Because when you finally convince someone to buy your book, read your book, what you want is for them to share it with other people. Really, word of mouth is still the best way to promote a book. And so Rebecca started this by a huge focus on her book cover. And you can see from the book cover, this is probably arguably one of the book covers we're the most proudest of creating. The quality of it is amazing. It summarizes exactly what the story is about, and it really captures your attention straight away and communicates what this story is. The approach Rebecca took is to focus on media and to focus on getting features and articles. And you can see that she did in the New York Times, she did in the Telegraph, and you can see how popular the book became and how well it did in terms of mental health biographies. She also did book fairs. And as a result of all of this, her book has reached bookshelves. So she was in the Lake District and she found her book on a bookshelf, which is amazing. One of the key takeaways I want you to get from all of these success stories and case studies that I will show you is that based on your book, you will have a different plan for promotion. So with Rebecca, because it was newsworthy, media was the main focus. She didn't need to target social media or ads or things like that. It was quite simple. We knew straight from the beginning, this book is newsworthy. Media will write about this book. Local radio stations will cover this book. And so we just need to get in touch with them, pitch them, get the publicity there, and is where this book will grow. And then, of course, because we've created an amazing product, Rebecca invested in her cover. She invested in editing. She really invested in making this the best it could be. She did developmental editing, copy editing, proofreading, so that once someone read that book, the reviews would be amazing. And they were incredible, right? I just loved the book. I couldn't put it down. So that was Rebecca's strategy. Moving on to Laura Bird. Laura Bird is another popular case study of mine because her social media accounts are private. and they still are private. So it just completely dispels this myth that you need to be good at social media. And so, of course, Rebecca had a newsworthy story. Again, she went from suicide attempt to ultra marathon runner. But although she did some media and we did some marketing that way, what Laura did really well was she used spectacle, I would call it. So she did a number of challenges, which of course brings awareness to her and to her book. So she did things such as running a marathon with a fridge strapped to her back. Or, and that of course got her on local radio stations and things like that. And she did a lot of talks. She would go and do talks at charity events. She would go and do talks at libraries. And of course, it would always feature her book as a result. And that is really what led to this success for Laura. Again, Laura really invested in her book. She was someone that knew the potential of her story and where to take it. The main takeaway from Laura is really how can you creatively promote yourself as an author and promote your book. And again, once you have a good book, the reviews do well, it then promotes the book even further. Now, moving on to Chris Donaldson. So he took a slightly different route, and this is something I really like to highlight. Chris's book was very focused on a specific audience. It was about travel, and it was about travel on a motorcycle. So again, really specific. He knew exactly who he was targeting. But the point with this is that, of course, his book was not just restricted to that audience. Books never have just one audience, but you need somewhere to start. They need an initial audience, the initial seed. And if that initial audience loves it, they will talk about it and they will share it with other people. This actually happened with Tim Ferriss, who authored The 4-Hour Workweek, in that he knew that lots of people would enjoy this book, but he focused on a very small audience first and got those initial fans there. And then, of course, the book grew from there. And Chris Donaldson's book has gone on to do some incredible numbers. I'm now going to talk about a few other authors here. I'm actually going to jump around a little bit and talk about Bryony Best. So Bryony had a very different goal to a lot of the other authors that we work with. The vast majority of authors that we work with, they have a memoir and a story that they want to tell. They maybe have a business and they want to promote it through a book. They have written a book and they want to publish it because they have a love for writing. They've always wanted to publish a book. And every now and again, we get authors that want to become a career author. So they want to quit their job and become an author. And that was Bryony's goal. She had a 9-to-5 when she first started publishing books with us. She's published a huge number of books now. And now that's all she does. She is a full-time writer. And in order to achieve that, Bryony did use some of the marketing strategies we've spoken around in terms of media, in terms of talks, in terms of getting out there and signing books. But what Bryony did incredibly well was social media. She went all in on using Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, you name it. Bryony was using it, and she was posting on there every single day. So she would post multiple times a day. She'd create videos, pictures, content, and it really showed Bryony's dedication to wanting to become a full-time author. She had decided, this is what I want to do, and I am prepared to do whatever it takes in order to promote my books and to achieve. And as a result, it's worked out incredibly well for her. She is now a full-time author. She makes a living from her books, a very good living, in fact. And you can see how well these books are doing. They're always in the top of the charts because she spends so much time promoting her book. Now, like I said, on the other hand, we do have people such as Mev, who he had this book. He wanted to get his memoir out there. He wanted to share his story, but he wasn't going to be posting on social media all the time. He wasn't chasing becoming a best-selling author. He just had something that he wanted to share. And his book, again, has done incredibly well. Mev knew what he wanted from the outset. And I think when you're an author, it's really important to know what you want out of your book. What do you want to achieve from your book in the long term? And then we also have Deborah Corey, who again, she was promoting a business, promoting her career. You can see here, so that's done incredibly well. And she's published a number of books with us. Deborah used her book more at conferences and events and would give it away. And that, of course, generated a lot of sales. But more than anything, she was looking to sell a higher value service, which was her business and what she does as a career. I then wanted to show you a few other examples. So we have Shankar, who wanted to create a children's book. And again, he achieved best-selling book, did incredibly well. We have Becky, who created this book just for fun, in effect. And then we have Thom, who created this wonderful children's book. So as you can see, we have all manner of different authors who've created all manner of different books. They've all approached it in different ways. And really the core takeaway is there is a way to promote your book. There is always a way to create a professional book that sells well. Fundamentals are you need to invest in your book. So number one is you have to invest in a great cover, great editing, great distribution, because good distribution is going to make sure that your book can be available on bookshelves and things like that. Not all publishers are able to achieve that. So that's something that you need to check before you push ahead. And then, of course, having an incredible book that ties all of that together, that means that when people read it, they want to share it with other people. YouTube will now be recommending another one of my incredibly valuable videos to help you write an amazing book and publish it successfully. So make sure you go ahead and watch that next.